Good afternoon, everybody. So, unfortunately, the chair can't be here today, so you have the misfortune of having me in the chair. But can I welcome members, most of which are substitutes, and our invited guests, and the public who are all watching online on our webcast. This is the meeting of the Audit Panel. So, can we start by going through the apologies for absence, Polly?
Yeah, okay, Chair. Deputy Chair, we've received apologies from the Chairman, Assemblymember Whittle, and apologies from Assemblymember Gavron, for whom Assemblymember McCartney is substituting, and from Assemblymember Sahota, for whom Assemblymember Arnold is substituting.
Fantastic. Well, that's our good fortune, isn't it, having those in
Absolutely.
substitutes. So, can we note the declarations of interest, and does any member have any other declarations to make?
Yes. Chair, can I say with regards to item 5, Appendix 1A, the Stepping Stones programme, as Deputy Mayor for Education, that programme is my responsibility. Right. So if it could be noted that I will not take part in any discussions
Wonderful.
on that item.
Thank you very much for that transparency. Excellent. Good. So now we move on to the minutes. Can we agree the minutes?
Yeah.
I think they were relatively true reflection. I don't think anyone else was here, but yeah.
Follow you, Chair.
Thank you. Take that as done.
Yeah.
And then summary list of actions. Can we note that report?
Yes. Yes.
Good. Okay.
Received.
And then we move on to the internal audit reports. Which is covered from page 15 to page 18. I've got a few questions myself.
Are you doing the external or internal?
The internal one, for number 5 is internal here, internal reports.
Oh.
So, this is the main business for today on the internal audit reports. I've got Julie Moorgrove, Director of Audit Risk and Assurance. Mopac will introduce this for us. So there we are. Julie, there we are.
I'm here. Actually, I'm going to hand it over to David, who actually led on this review. But
Okay.
you'll know the substantial thoughts on that.
Yes. The first one is the review of the Stepping Stones programme. So this were the objectives. The review was to look at the objectives of the Stepping Stones programme to support vulnerable young people in their transition from the primary school to secondary schools. The review was to look at the framework in place. As you will see, this received a substantial opinion, and however there was one recommendation which, if you turn to page 31, and this was relating to the Scale Up Project's output record and the population of that with relevant information. This was agreed, and we are looking at March 2019 for implementation. I'm sure Sarah will take any questions along with myself on this report. But overall, a very good review, and as I say, substantial assurance received from us.
Any member have any questions on that?
No, it was just, I couldn't see it or missed it. It was in terms of how the meeting, how this programme is meeting clearly one of its objectives to pick up young people from different ethnic groups and the spread across London.
Okay.
Was that something?
Probably a question if it's specifically about the programme for Sarah.
For Sarah, how is that
Yes.
meeting that?
Yeah, so we appointed 15 different schools, so the schools bid in through a competitive tendering process to get the grant for Stepping Stones, and in that they had to identify the need and the pupils that they would be really specifying who would be benefiting from Stepping Stones, and each of those, there's a number of different kind of criteria when they're looking at the young people who are in primary school to identify those who will be most benefiting from the Stepping Stones programme. So you'd expect kind of the free flow going through to the 15 schools to be representative of their particular demography. What I haven't got in front of me is actually the BAME data for the mentors and the mentees. That's one of the things which is being collected through our evaluators, which we'll have in time for the March deadline. So we've got the total figures and the gender breakdown for the mentors and mentees at the moment from 11 out of the 15 schools, and we're just waiting on the final data on that BME breakdown. I'm imagining that it will be pretty high with respect to both the mentors and the mentees, but we'll be able to kind of come back to you with the exact data on that when we get the final returns through from the projects.
So, Chair, that's you've answered a question I haven't asked, but I welcome that about the mentee, the support team, and then you talked about the 15 schools. So are you saying the GLA will not be doing any direct monitoring to see the beneficiaries, if I can use that term?
No, we will do. So we've actually got quite a thorough framework in place for evaluation and mentoring of the programme, which is being overseen by an external evaluator, Traverse. And so there's kind of different data sets which the projects are coming back to us, and with respect to the data Traverse, they're doing a huge amount of baseline information on both the mentors and the mentees who are participating, and that does include gender and respect to BAME. So we'll know with respect to the people who are participating as mentors, which are the year 10s and the year 7s, what their ethnicity is.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Good, so we're happy with that one then? How about the review of Euro 2020?
Okay, thank you. Again, this review focused on the objective that appropriate arrangements are in place to support the GLA's obligations as the host city authority for the 2020 European Football Championships, and that those are delivered effectively and efficiently to achieve the agreed outcomes.
Yeah.
As you can see, this report and this review received another substantial opinion. It's worth also adding as part of that the original bid was looking at that was put forward by the GLA, the Football Association, and the Department of Digital Culture and Media and Sport, who bid successfully for the semi-finals and the final. But as a consequence of Brussels being stripped of their rights, London was also given additional 4 games to be hosted at Wembley. So the review was taking into account those changes and also obviously what had originally been bid for. There was one recommendation found, and if you turn, yes, he says, thank you. And this was for the GLA to ensure that formal written agreements are in place, and those are evidenced by for the third-party service providers, and that's been agreed, and implementation of that has been already put in place.
Is that the bit where it says failure to formally communicate the rights and obligations of the service provider may result in terms of the agreement not being fulfilled and the need for money not being achieved by the GLA?
Yeah. So
Are
that's
you, what you're saying about that now?
I'm sure Kevin will be able to say that, but we've that's been implemented immediately,
Yeah.
so it's already in place.
So was this a failing of London and Partners to do that
Close question.
Yeah, Kevin might.
It's worth saying that so London and Partners have got a quite important role to play in this, because there's a big international promotion element of the contest. Yeah. So we work quite closely with them. So I think the piece that we've agreed to do here is that we hadn't quite got our formal relationship with them written down for this piece of work. Right. We had seen the piece of work they all had commissioned, we'd seen all the specifications around that, but in this first piece of work we hadn't actually documented that quite as fully as we could do. Right. So going forward we'll make sure that happens, and of course for all of our external pieces of commissioning that will also happen.
So for the benefit of future events and audits, how can we avoid that happening again then?
We won't do it.
That's the trouble, you didn't do it.
No, but the point was because we were in partnership with them and then we see them as part of the programme themselves, we hadn't had that formal relationship that said, we wrote to you and said you will do X. We had a discussion with them and they did X. We saw the contractual paperwork. So it was just that first piece. So we will have that more formal.
London Legacy Development Corporation and West Ham having not written down all their formal agreements. Okay, no, but it's a good point.
It's all right with you.
It is worth making sure that those informal discussions do get put down in writing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good. All right. Thank you very much.
I think it's just a quick question about connectivity here. Given that the Mayor's got a sports strategy and all the glorious things in that, how can you identify how you will get some benefits for the strategy by hosting this game? You're able to do that?
Absolutely. Our major sports events framework states that events are important to us, the GLA and the Mayor, because of the economic impact that events bring to London, the international exposure that events bring to the city, and the community engagement benefits. And
those are big headings. It's about the impact. So, like, have you explored or will you be exploring how young London's footballers, to have this event and to have local clubs not knowing it's taken place, or, you know, that business of seeing an empty stadium where you could have reached out proactively to get young kids on. When will that sort of thing be thought through?
It's currently in planning. Our ambition is that every Londoner has the opportunity to engage in some way, shape or form with this tournament, and there is a number of different projects and programmes as part of this to engage with young Londoners, football clubs, wider community organisations, to give them opportunities to really be part of this event. So it's an integral thread of the event.
And part of our delivery of the event and our host city obligations is about making the games more accessible. So having screenings within London and activation and things to get involved in so that young people can really engage in it. Because obviously not everybody will be able to go to the 7 matches that are in London.
Okay, thanks for that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good, so we're happy with that one then? Good. So move on to the one with the title that rolls off the tongue. Follow up the review of the links as Ubuntu Security and Governance Control Framework.
I think you might have missed out one in between.
Did I? Oh, sorry, yeah, I saw the follow-up review of learning needs and delivery. Yeah, I was getting my tongue around that one so much I my head around the first one. That's you, Tom, sorry.
Well, Mark and I will act as messengers if any members want to raise on this one. It's a follow-up, so I think it's all been enacted.
Something on page 55 though. Oh no, sorry, that's the next one. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. So then we now go on to the one that I just said, which is the links to Security and Governance Control Framework with Laurie.
Right. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I mean this was a follow-up review of, as you say, the Linux Ubuntu Security and Governance Control Framework. I'm sure Laurie will correct me if I've pronounced that incorrectly. Of the recommendations, the 3 recommendations that were identified in the original report, 2 have been fully implemented, and 1 which was the vulnerability management, and this referred to the penetration testing, has not been implemented, and the tests have been put back to May. So I'm sure Laurie will be able to explain.
Fill us in on that one.
Yeah, sure. Well, the reason for that is because, so to put it in a bit of context, we do. This is kind of the back-end system which runs a lot of our website for London.gov, lots of our digital products, and we always do a full program of external security testing. Obviously, you know, threats, etc. So this is about the internal testing, which is checking from sort of inside our network. But which is something we do every year. The reason for the delay this year is because we've just finished a huge project upgrading all of the GLA's network and Wi-Fi network, so we wanted to wait to finish that to then carry out this full assessment, which is just in the process of procurement at the moment. So that's where we are with it, really. Yeah.
So we're still waiting for it to be procured, are we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we just got the specification, and then we'll just be appointed.
You have to get somebody in to do it.
Yeah, we use external providers. Yeah, exactly.
Right, but do we think we'll meet the target day of May?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, should do. This is something we do. I mean, it's something we have a regular program of anyway. For all, every time we launch a digital product, we do security testing, etc. But so it's a fairly standard thing for us. But yeah, I think we should beat that deadline. Yeah.
Right, thank you very much. Thank you. Independent reasonable assurance report, eFlex. Tom, that's you, is that?
Yeah, I think this is just equivalent to a sort of grant claim, so I think this is just a more technical disclosure.
Any questions on that one? No? Good, then internal audit progress report. That's you again, Tom.
Sorry, that's David. Sorry.
David? I have to write name. Doesn't matter. Good day, David. No? Oh,
It's that, yeah.
So this is just summarising.
Sharing the load.
When I said David, I meant Julie.
That was in stereo then. So this summarises those reviews that we've just discussed, Chair, and just provides assurance that we will deliver the audit plan by the end of March. So we're completely on target. It also gives you a brief update you'll see on the counter fraud work, which we've spoken to you earlier in the year. In particular, the successful prosecution that took place on a complex fraud that we were dealing with the Metropolitan Police. And we were very grateful to my team in particular, because I know that was something that came out of data matching exercise that we did. So I think that's helped. But all the learning from that has also been taken forward by the GLA into other reviews. So nothing really to add on that, other than on target, and we look forward to next year's plan.
Indeed, so do I. Marvellous. That's very good, thank you. So the next one is the internal audit charter for the GLA.
Yes.
Is it going to be you?
I'll do this.
Great. Can I give it to anyone else?
So in presenting next year's plan, which is the next item, we've just taken the opportunity to present our internal audit charter, which is something that the audit panel need to look at on a regular basis. This really sets out our overall responsibilities and how we maintain our independence and objectivity, how we report, and how that sits with our statutory responsibilities. So that's just to ensure that you've got that on record, Chair, and how we interact with the authority.
Good, thank you. Any questions, anybody? No? Right. Okay, then we come to the GLA internal audit plan for 2019/20.
So this is the plan for next year's work, and I'm grateful to the senior management team within the GLA that David and my team have spent the last couple of months coming around and visiting and having one-to-ones with the teams. Also looking at the risk register, which you've got as the next item on the agenda as well. Ensuring that we're focusing our review activity alongside your corporate risk. So where you have a corporate risk and you have key control to help manage that, this programme of work will give you specific assurance around how well you're doing in terms of managing that. So you can see it's quite expansive. It goes across your governance frameworks. No surprise, we're looking in particular at housing and land. We've got 3 fairly big reviews in that area. Communities intelligence, development enterprise. Then we'll also be looking at IT systems and our key financial systems work. We have treasury management in again this year. We're just in the process of finishing this year's review, but we will be coming back to next year in that piece of work as well. So, and following up this year's programme, just to give you assurance that those recommendations that have been agreed this year are actually implemented.
Right, good. I've got a question, actually, on page number 76. And topically, it's the item in relation to Brexit. Which says that we're going to do a review of the GLA processes in place for dealing with the potential impacts of Brexit.
Yeah.
I suspect if it's in the 4th quarter of next year, we might be some way into it or not into it at all.
Yes, I mean it's unfortunately an unknown at the moment, but we still need to have it in the plan, because as soon as obviously that or as and when, or if and when Brexit comes into place, then it's how the GLA are interacting with other agencies like the government itself, and have they picked up on all the processes. So we'll be looking at the governance arrangements to ensure that the GLA have picked up all these elements that would be required for any changes as a consequence of Brexit.
Right. I'm just interested in the phrasing of potential impacts, because it's more likely to be impacts.
We can change that. Yes, I think that's a fair point. But again, because we don't know the impacts, we've put potential
until they're impacted.
Until they're impacted. But yes, that's.
But we're doing other work as well. I mean, obviously, we're not waiting until we're a year.
No.
in
This
before we
is
look at what might have happened.
No, absolutely. So this is part of making sure that we've captured it as a single item on the audit plan.
Right.
I mean, we did discuss the quarters, because obviously initially when we were looking at this, we were probably looking at early on, as in quarters 1 or 2.
Yes.
The way things have obviously transpired and are continuing as we speak, we're looking at probably 4th quarter. There is potential it could even move into next year's plan.
Let's have a conversation with Mr. Burko then.
Yeah. And
What help us with the audit plan?
can I just come in, Chair?
Yes, of course you can.
And that you'd have had to have done some work in terms of the European funding and streams and the responsibilities and the legacy tail and all of that, wouldn't you?
Well, the work that we often do is as you saw in the previous paper, is often looking at European funding. We would be looking at the accounts for that. But you're absolutely right. It's how that funding would be impacted with Brexit. So we would be looking at what the GLA have in place, and also what they're putting in place to deal with any changes due to Brexit coming in place. So that will form part of our scope of our review.
Can I just get some clarity then? So this is the audit plan for 1920. So that's this coming financial year. And we're looking in the 4th quarter of this cut. So we're looking at sort of February, March of next year when this report's
Absolutely, but I think, as we may have said, this plan's indicative, so it will change, and as by being risk based. If the risk profile changes, which it potentially could, then there is the flexibility to move that review. It's not totally set in stone.
No.
It's fluid concrete.
Liquid concrete. Very good. Thank you. All right, are we happy with that then, folks? Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you. So that finishes that bit then. So can we note the internal audit reports attached to the report?
Yeah.
Agreed?
Yeah.
All right, now then, look at the corporate risk register.
Yeah.
Any comments on that, anybody? No?
Yeah.
Can we note that report then in item 6?
Balanced.
Thank you. The monitoring of expenses and taxable benefits, mayor, elected members and senior staff. Do members have any comments on the expenses and taxable benefits of the mayor, elected members and senior staff? I have got one actually, as it happens. Page 109. This is senior employee. All right.
More really annoying, man. really annoying.
What are you getting? You're going to the strips. Good. Right. So this one, I just noticed. I mean, I do understand there are always exceptional circumstances, but I just happened to notice, and this is a public document, isn't it? So I can use names.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Deputy Mayor for Culture and Creative Industries has, in 2017 to 18, accrued more foreign travel expenses than all the others pretty much added together, which was around £7,000. And then this year, to date, is running at £4,000, which is nearly as much as all the others added together. And I just wondered what she was doing that is so exceptional to everybody else.
So I think, Chair, I will double check this when I get back to my desk, but I'm pretty sure those expenses relate to only a couple of trips, and I can't remember the exact name, maybe someone else can remember, but it's the World Cities Cultural Forum, which Justine plays a leading part. So they are flights to, I think one was in Seoul in Korea and one was in San Francisco or something. They are flights to those World Cultural Forums, which Justine and some of her colleagues play a lead part in. So I think we previously... Well,
£7,000 just
well,
flight. That can't be right, surely.
hang on just a second. As per our expenses and benefits framework, flights over a certain length of time, quite appropriately, people travel business class as per the expenses and benefits framework. If it's over a certain period of time, I think this one's the previous year's one's come up before. And I think I did a note round to the members about this. I'm happy to repeat that for this one. So it's entirely in keeping with the expenses and benefits framework, and they were the.
I'm not suggesting any.
No. I know you're not. I'm just saying as well. And these are the ranges put in under the last mayoral administration, just so we're clear. I'm happy to confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Yeah, I was saying, the next item when we get to distance hospitality is you've got the person involved in last year, went to Detroit, went to San Francisco, so there is some significant trips.
Right.
That makes sense.
Okay. Very good. There is another one. Has anyone else got any questions at all?
No.
On that? Okay. Right. Good. So, subject to those comments, can we note the report?
Note.
Right. So, item number 8. Can we note the register of gifts and hospitality for the Mayor
Noted.
and Assembly members?
Yeah, noted.
Yeah. Number 9, register of gifts and hospitality members. Number 9 is register of gifts and hospitality members of staff. I think that was one where I had another question, but I'll have to look at my phone because I read it online. Sorry.
I'm going to have to go in 2 minutes.
Yeah, okay, we'll yeah, that's understandable. So I'm looking at page, sorry, I might have to go back. Look at page 103.
103.
So, sorry, I do apologise, I just want to just get some clarification on page 103, which is under exceptions, right at the bottom.
Oh, this is about expenses, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's right.
What's this?
It's the GLA officers, £65.26p, £20.26p, no itemised receipt. What's that then?
I'll put it on the same email I sent you about the other one. I can't remember.
Right. Because we did have a discussion about this in the past.
Yeah.
So if people can't provide receipts, then...
So it'll be somebody who hasn't done this before, because as Martin just said, it's one strike and you're out.
It is, right.
What, second strike, you're out.
Second.
You get away with one.
Okay.
So I will email the details.
Marvellous. All right then, thank you. So moving swiftly on then. We've done item 9, we on that? Number 10. So, report of the monitoring officer regarding complaints about elected members. Anybody want to comment on that at all?
No.
No? So we can note the report. Thank you. And then 11, the work programme for the Audit Panel 2019-20. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to raise for future meetings? No? Okay. No. So can we approve the work programme? We'll have with that? Yep. Good. Thank you. Date of the next meeting? Subject to a decision at the annual meeting, the next meeting of the Audit Panel is scheduled for the 17th of July 2019 at 2:30 in Committee Room 3. Happy with that?
Yep.
Good. I'm not aware of any other business, so thank you very much.
It still shocks me even now.